Good evening and welcome to Don't Fear the New Gear. As I said, I'm your host this evening, Kathleen, and my colleague's Kat. I don't know if Kat can give us a little wave.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi. Before we start the meeting, we'd just like to encourage everybody to get as much as possible from tonight's meeting. So please, ask questions. So Don't Fear the New Gear kind of came on the back of the Sustainable Agri Capital Grant Scheme that the Scottish Government had in the back end of last year. It was a pilot scheme, and we're going to look at a couple of items that were available under that scheme. So we've got James Thompson, who's the Shearwell area rep for Northern Scotland and Highlands, and she's going to talk to us about stick readers and handheld recording devices. And then Claire from Torlisk Farm on the Isle of Mull is a farmer who uses these items in everyday. So she's going to give us a wee bit about that. Then we'll have some questions and answers about that. Then we're going to hear from Stephen Fagan, who is going to talk to us about calving detectors. And Stephen is the head of product and design from Moocall. And then we'll hear from Donald MacDonald, who from Caldale and Caithness, and he's going to tell us about his experiences using Moocall. And then there'll be some more time for questions and answers. So as I say, folks, please don't hesitate. Put up your hand or type in the chat box. If there's anything during the meeting, we can stop. If not, we can come to it at the end of the section. So without further ado, I'll just move over to Jane, and Jane will take us from there. Jane.
Hi. So as Kathleen says, I'm the Northern Scotland rep for Shearwell Data Limited, cover everything from the M8 right up to Shetland. So got a big variety of customers that vary from tiny crofters with a couple of sheep and a couple of cows to the big finishers on the East Coast. So huge variety of enterprises and sizes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the various EID readers that we have or that are available from other companies as well, and talk a bit about how they can keep you on the right track and keep you on the right side of the law with ARPID, and how they can also help you with your livestock enterprises. So there's two levels really. There's a simple stick reader, and then there's a more complicated stock recorder type machine, which is an EID reader and a data collector. So when you use EID readers, either with or without software, they can help you on several levels. They reduce errors because you're not writing things down. You're not having to work with a pen and paper in the rain. You're not going to stuff that pen and paper in your pocket and run it through the washing machine. All your data is stored on your device and it's safe there and it's correct. You can print lists of tags off, or you can email them to yourself. It keeps recording and keeping records simple. And it lets you use all that information that you've gathered to monitor your performance within your flock or your herd. So stick readers, like this one, very, very simple pieces of kit. You all see that? It's just about fitting on the screen. This literally does what it says on the tin. It reads tags. But you can use this in conjunction with a mobile phone. You can also connect it up to your PC to take the tags off it as a spreadsheet and pop them onto your PC. So in conjunction with the mobile phone, it will help you with all your statutory recording, your births, your deaths, your ons, your offs, your purchase and your sales. It can also connect up to the phone alongside a weighhead, so you can save weights against animals. It'll connect up to panel readers as well, so you can save your tags onto the panel readers and then export the data from there. They're not specific to one business, so you could buy one stick reader between 3 or 4 of you, or between a common grazings committee, or between a bunch of neighbours, and you can all use the stick reader independently of each other and get your tags off it. You can also all use it within one fank. If you're sharing a fank and your sheep are all mixed together, you can split your sheep off into the different batches and you can then put them into groups on your stick reader. So you could have yours in group A, Johnny next door could have his in group B, and Penny down the road could have hers into group C. So you can split them all into their batches, and you all know exactly what you've got. Stick readers, as I say, can also be used with a mobile phone. So you probably can't see that very well because of the light. But simple mobile phone apps where you can take data from the stick reader and just stash them as lists of numbers on the mobile phone. Or you can also do other statutory recording or management recording on the phone as well. And it just connects up by Bluetooth. So it's very, very simple to use. And then you can send that data to yourself, or you can store it on your computer as part of your records. The other way to keep records and to use EID is with a machine like this one, which is what we call a stock recorder. So this is an EID reader, and it's also a data collector, and it works in conjunction with software on your PC. So if I just open up the program, hopefully you'll be able to see it with the light. So you use this piece of kit basically as an electronic diary. So it reads the tags, and then it will store information against that tag for each animal. So it will store lambing information, calving information. I don't know, can you see the screen there or not really? It's a bit blurry. It's dead simple. It's pretty much like a mobile phone. It's all touch screen. You touch things, it moves about onto different screens. So it does all your statutory recording again, and then it does no end of other management information. So you can record births for calves against dams and sires. You can do lambings and record them against dams and sires. You can do bulling groups, tupping groups. You can put your TP test results on them. You can even do wool scores. If you're really into your wool, you can grade and batch your wool into different varieties, or you can mark your sheep and against the quality of their wool. Gosh, I mean, it does everything. It does all your movements on and off. It does your purchases and your sales. It does your seasonal grazings to grass keep. The list goes on and on, really. So all that information is stored in a piece of kit like this, and then you upload that information onto your farm software on your PC, and then you can use that information to analyze your flock and your herd and see which animals are working for you, which animals aren't working for you, and then make decisions about your livestock enterprises based on real information rather than, oh, that looks like a nice sheep, we'll keep her. Because sometimes these nice looking sheep actually aren't performing for you at all, and the old scrag bag at the back of the pen is the one that's putting out a pair of lambs every year that go fat in the first sale. It'll also do weights. It'll connect up to a Bluetooth weighead, and the weights of the animals can be taken across to the stock recorder, so you can see your daily live weight gains, or if they're losing weight, you can see that as well. It'll also connect up to auto drafters and things like that, so you can create drafting groups and shed sheep off based on weight or on management criteria like date of birth, breed, gender, whether they're carrying singles, twins, or triplets. So it's a very useful piece of kit, and it holds a lot of information and it does a lot of stuff. It doesn't mean to say that this doesn't do the job for you. You know, both of these pieces of kit have their place, and what's right for one person may not be right for another person. So you need to have a look at your enterprises, have a look at the level of recording that you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to just keep the right side of the law and maybe do a little bit of management recording, a stick reader along with a mobile phone app would be brilliant. If you're wanting to go in depth and record much more information and go into pedigrees and that sort of thing, you're probably looking at a stock recorder with the associated software. But there's no right or wrong. Both of them do a good job. Both of them will help you stay on the right side of ARPID. Both will help you monitor your enterprises. And even more important, both of them are eligible under CAGs. So you can get a grant for both of them as well. And really, that's kind of it in a nutshell. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer.
Thanks, Jane. That was great. Claire, we'll maybe ask Claire to come in now and give us a wee bit of about how she uses it on her farm. Hi, Claire.
Of course. Hi, everybody. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, but I've got poor internet, so I'll have to see how it goes.
I've always got a copy of it, and we can do it that way if required.
I've never actually. I'll need to find out. Could you maybe get the presentation up just in case, because it's starting to slow down already?
Yep. No problem.
If that's okay.
Sorry, just bear with me. Just kick it off. Yep.
That's great. Thank you very much. So yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Claire. I farm or live at Thorloisk Farm on the Isle of Mull. If you could just go to the next slide. So for anybody who's not quite sure where that is, west coast of Scotland and northwest coast of the island. We've got a hill farm. It's about 3,200 hectares. Just go to the next slide, please. And it is a hill farm that's got mostly kind of land class 6 and 7 ground. We've got a little bit of in-by grassland as well. Looks beautiful green in the summer, but it's just bracken that's covering everything, unfortunately. And it rises from the sea right up over the hill tops. So it's quite a large area, and scope is our biggest advantage that we've got on the farm. Okay, next slide. And it's a very extensively farmed system. We don't really have much in terms of shed and stuff, so the animals all out winter. I've had to put a little arrow in to show you where the cows are. That's the cows 2 winters ago, and that photo was taken with a drone, just to give you an idea of the technology. We do love our technology on the farm, and the drone was actually used to go and find the cows because I had no idea where they were. Okay, next slide. It's just a very quick introduction to show you kind of what kind of farming system we have. So we've got about 55 Highland cows, pedigree Highland cows. Some of them are crossed to the Highland bull. Others are bred pure for replacements and to sell some breeding stock. Okay, next slide. And then we've also got sheep, just under 1,000 breeding ewes. We've got an in-by stud flock to produce our own homebred pups. And then we've got hill ewes that are just hefted out on open hill, and they remain out on the hill all year round. Okay. So being a hill farm brings quite a few challenges with it in terms of performance and stock recording. So we've had to kind of find our own way to doing it. I arrived on the farm 9 years ago, but 10 years ago, my partner Ian, he started as a monitor farm for QMS. So that ran from 2011 until 14, and performance recording featured quite a bit within that program. How can we develop a system where we can capture data that allows us to drive the business forward, but is constrained by these environmental factors that typically are faced by any hill farm. So at the moment, what we have is we've got the livestock recording software, FarmWorks from Shearwell, which we've had for quite some time now. We then, in 2015, bought a stock recorder that Jane just spoke about, closely followed by electronic weighing equipment. We started off with just very basic scales during the Monitor Farm program, and we've now actually gone full on with the weighing equipment. So we've got the cattle weighing platform, and for the sheep, we've got the whole combi clamp system with trailer and everything, because we don't have the shed where we can handle everything in a centralized way. We have to take the equipment to the different hill groups. So that just allows us to be mobile and set everything up mobile. So we've got the weigh system that speaks to the stock recorder, and we can record everything that way. Just next slide, please. Okay, so just a kind of overview of what we're actually doing. So obviously we've got the sheep EID, and that was really the trigger for expanding on our technology and electronic equipment, because the EID tag for the sheep is quite an investment, depending on obviously the size of the flock here as well, to get the most out of that investment. That was the idea when Ian started to carry out the initial performance recording. So once we had all that equipment and the stock recorder, we then decided to upgrade all the cattle to EID as well in 2016. Okay, next point. So it's a little bit laborious not being able to do it. So what we're doing is, obviously the cattle, they are fully recorded individually. The in-by flock, the stud flock, is fully recorded. So although they lamb in the fields, everything's caught just after lambing, brought into the shed for weighing, tagging, recording. The mother gets recorded. Any issues, problems, or comments get noted down. Okay, next point. And then that gives us that kind of full performance recording picture for the herd and the flock. The hill flocks, unfortunately, because they lamb out on the hill, we can't record lambs to their mothers, which makes it a little bit more difficult to assess the productivity of the mother. But we do record them individually for their treatments, any veterinary treatments, and weighing records as well. Okay, next one, please. And everything gets weighed, at least 4 times per year. Some groups up to 6 or 7 times. We take regular body condition scores, and that all gets saved via stock recorder. And excuse me, and the weighing equipment gets used at any treatment time. So we weigh the animal and we administer treatments according to the live weight of the animal on that day. And then for the cattle, that gets recorded individually for each animal. For the sheep, we're not quite there yet. Okay, next one, please. One of my favorite tools about the stock recorder is the ability to add comments for individual animals. So Jane's already outlined the wide ability to capture various aspects of the animal's performance, but the comment section is a fantastic tool, in my opinion, if you're willing to enter comments properly. You can literally put anything, and you can put a cull comment in that highlights the animal next time it comes through the system, and you read its ear tag, and you know exactly. You don't need to go through the history, or you don't need to work with keel. You can just shed it off. But it can be a comment for good things, you know, good mothering ability, for example. It can be a comment, for example, an animal that was really lame in the foot. You've treated it, you've kept it in maybe for a day, you've put it back out. The following time it comes back in, you check the foot because the comment comes up, and you can make sure everything's okay. So it's little things like that that actually sound quite laborious, but have a huge benefit at the other end, if that makes sense. Okay, next one, please. And then obviously the biggest one that Jane's already touched on is using the records that we capture to cull accordingly. So anything that's showing subfertility or poor quality offspring goes. Any calving or lambing difficulties, there is the option to enter scores, but then in addition to that, as in a calving or lambing score, but then you can also add comments what the actual issue was. You can add data about maternal traits, milkiness, can be some, you know, a milk vein not working, or a ewe that had mastitis maybe, and you can check next time if it's healed up, you've treated her, and you just want to make sure she's still milking. So yeah, anything for the cattle, even aggressive behavior. So anything that comes into the handling system and gets a little bit cross with us, there's maybe a little comment noted, and if that's a recurring issue, we don't keep any replacements, and that animal might even end up in the freezer. So yeah, so it's really good to cull out that bottom proportion of your flock or herd that's causing you all the hassle, and proportionally usually takes up much more of your time than the rest, without the return for that. Next slide, please. So I've already started talking about this slide. So, but in terms of the benefits of all that equipment and performance recording, I would say that the biggest one is you will see an improvement in your animal health and welfare. So that starts at the very basis of routine treatments, best practice routine treatments. You can administer animal health products according to the weight of the animal, and you can take a note of that in the program. As I've mentioned, you can enter comments for any follow-up checks if there's been an issue with animals. And because of the ability to highlight animals that have had health or welfare issues, that allows you to cull that animal. Therefore, you're not subjecting it to possibly being exposed to that again. So for example, lambing difficulties, you cull that animal, and therefore the following year, you don't have that yow suffering again at lambing time. Fly strike even, sheep here that come down with fly strike, there's a comment added and they have to go because I've noticed on the basis of comments that the sheep that have had fly strike, there's something just with the wool makeup, they are more likely to get it again. Yows that have been coped as well. So it all goes hand in hand. If your animals are healthier and happier and they're thriving, so that feeds into the production. It makes your life easier, even though you've got the labor and everything, but it makes your flock management so much easier. And the other thing that we've noticed is actually you end up with a much more uniform sheep flock, which makes veterinary treatments easier. For example, it makes it much easier to batch up animals when it comes to the sale. And the reason for that is you're culling your poorest end, which often are your big fatties that aren't producing anything, or maybe a poorly animal and something's just not right with that and it's just not caught up with the rest. Another thing, because every animal, now you've got the opportunity to record your whole flock. So in batches, you can carry out data recording. We do it on an individual animal basis for the hill as well. And that gives us a much better handle on black loss, where it's occurring, when it's occurring, because we can track the veterinary treatments for each animal. We know roughly at what point of the year they've gone missing. And that's actually really helpful as well. You start to see patterns emerge. Okay, next one, please. And then obviously, just now there's a lot of discussion about agriculture and its contribution towards climate change and the impact on the environment. Actually carrying out performance recording and acting on that has distinct environmental and climate benefits. You're improving your production efficiencies because you're culling poorer animals, so you're utilizing your inputs much more efficiently to produce outputs. Your carbon footprint for your kilogram of output goes down. You're reducing your use of animal health products, or at least that's what we found. Rather than having to dose or treat to the heaviest in a group, you can really target that quite accurately. And the flip side of that whole thing then is, because of the performance recording allowing you to keep your animals healthier, there's a lesser chance of incidences occurring. So your antibiotic usage, for example, goes down. Antibiotics have a negative impact on dung beetles, for example. So there's lots and lots of boxes that can be ticked with that. The next one, please. And then obviously that's a kind of no-brainer. Performance recording allows us to focus on animals that have a superior genetic potential to thrive in our particular farm environment. Being on an extensive hill, our animals need to be hardy. They need to be able to thrive on poor roughage. So they need a slightly different makeup than maybe an animal would need on a lowland unit. Or they don't get away with as much, I'll put it that way. So that allows us to really select and retain animals that are doing well in our environment. Okay, next one, please. And all that obviously goes into improved profitability for the farm. The bottom line profitability certainly significantly improves once you're going down the line of performance recording. There are some things that I would say to anybody, and Ian and I had a discussion about this, that you will need to be aware of and consider when you want to go down the route of performance recording and utilizing equipment for that. The first one being the upfront costs, often prohibitive, I think. It took us a little while to really make up our mind and say, yes, we're going to go for it, because it is quite a hefty investment, especially being a hill place. You don't know just what your return will be. But when you're sitting down and you're doing your cost benefit analysis to see if it's worth buying the equipment, you don't forget about actually including the safety factor and the convenience factor when you're doing that sum. The convenience, it just makes it so much easier. You've got all the records on your program, as Jane said, the ARPID element. We had somebody out to to do an inspection out in the shed, and he said, right, I would like to see your medicine records now. We said, yeah, no problem, it's all on the computer. And he, it wasn't Arpid, it was somebody else, and I'm not going to say the name. He said, oh, well, if it's on the computer, it'll be fine. I'm not worried about that then. So that immediately saved us, I don't know, 1 or 2 hours. So that's a convenience aspect, and the safety factor as well, because you're using equipment, your whole handling system becomes smoother as well. Highland cows, for example, have very hairy horns. Trying to find out the ear tag of a cow that's just calved is an absolute nightmare. If you can wave the stock recorder in front of her head and you get the ear tag, then everybody's happy and you've not had to harass the cow and she's not had to get annoyed. So it's little things like that. Next one, please. The other thing that needs to be considered, and that's probably a big one, is you need to have a level of confidence to work with technology and electronic equipment. It's not everybody's cup of tea. The younger generation have the advantage to just grow up with it. They're almost born with a mobile phone in their hand. So that's something that needs to be considered. You want to have somebody available within your business or that can come and give you a hand to really either help you transition into a system where you're using that tech yourself, or they can keep an eye on it and deal with that aspect of it. And the reasons there being the transition process to actually get all your data digitalized is laborious initially. There is no doubt about that. So it will take you a little bit to get into that. And then it will obviously take a few years before you start to see the full benefits from the genetic improvements from recording. Having said that, you will get immediate improvements in your flock or herd just from highlighting problem animals and culling them. And then the other thing that, excuse me, links back to the confidence element is you need to have a system. You need to think about the data recording system. What is it I'm trying to achieve with the data? What am I going to do with the data? And therefore, what data is actually worth recording? I got very excited to begin with about recording everything under the sun, and it's a waste of money and, well, not a waste of time, because then in the end, some of that data just was useless to me. So it's really trying to hone down on the data you can actually do something with. Okay, next one, please. And then the other thing you need to realize is once you've committed to it, if you want to ensure that that data is valuable and reliable, you have to be consistent with capturing the data. As soon as you start to miss something, it creates a hole in your whole data profile, and that can then compromise the value of the remaining data set. But that's, if you commit to going down this route, it shouldn't be a problem. Next one, please. This one is just, yeah, things break. That's just the nature of farming. Everything can break in a farming environment. Having said that, it is a very robust piece of equipment, I have to say, and it has been put to the test here, unfortunately, and accidentally, I have to say. So what you need to have a contingency plan in place. What happens if your equipment packs in halfway through handling? What are you going to do? If, as Ian made the point today, if you know, traditional crofting, you maybe get a few neighbours together and everybody's got time on this one day and something doesn't work, what do you do? So you need to think about how you can get around these problems, because they might just occur. Most likely they won't, but just in case. Okay, next one, please. And this one is basically turning the disadvantages on the head of, you know, the kind of fear of tech equipment that a lot of people have, or just not feeling comfortable with it, that this is possibly an opportunity for the next generation, for new entrants to get established and involved in farming, because they tend to be comfortable with technology. So that's just something to think about. And I think the last slide is just a finishing slide. Yeah. So thanks a lot for listening. I hope it was of interest, and happy to answer any questions now or later after the other presentations.
No, that was great, Claire. Thank you for that. Have we, sorry, just bear with me. We have got a question. Sorry, I'll just take Jane off mute. Regarding the Shearwell stock recorder, what is the best or easiest way to use use and the cheapest software to upload the data onto? Does the Shearwell have a software program for a PC?
Yeah, so the stock recorder only works with our FarmWorks PC software. So if you buy the software on its own, for cattle and sheep, it's 525 quid. So it is a big investment. If you buy it alongside the stock recorder, you kind of get the program free with the stock recorder, but it's still 1,580 quid. However, if you are eligible for CAGs, you will get your CAGs grant on that if you go down that route. The stick reader is a kind of a standalone piece of kit. It doesn't have software that is specific to it, but you can use it in conjunction with the mobile phone apps and our cloud-based program, which is called the National Livestock Management Database, which is really hard to say, so we call it Cloud. And it does all your statutory recording free of charge, and the app is free of charge as well. And if you want to do a bit of performance recording, so comments, management groups, medicines and weighing, you pay the princely sum of £30 per year. So that's a good, cheap setting off kind of angle to go for. Stick reader for 550 quid. If you get CAGs, you'll get some of that back. And then either the free app or the 30 quid a year version of the app.
Jane, another question that's come in, is there any support given when you buy the software? It's yourself. Yep. So yeah, you get good training and good support.
Full support and backup. Yeah, you get, there is a subscription with the FarmWorks program and the stock recorder, which is £115 a year. You get that free of charge for year one. We'll help you set it up. We will help you use it. We'll give you a bit of training. And me, the other reps and the techie team at headquarters are available for phone calls, emails, WhatsApp messages, video calls, whatever, to get you up and running and to keep you up and running. And no question is daft. You know, I get text messages every now and then saying, how do I get into the weighing screen again? And it's just because you might not use that screen for a year and you forget where it is. So don't be daft, don't be frightened to ask questions, and don't think that some questions are daft. Nothing is.
Yeah, that was another question that did come in, Jane, was, you know, if people aren't good with technology or maybe not familiar with technology, yes, can get by with their mobile phone, you know, how difficult is it? I mean, I guess for somebody that's maybe not great with technology, you've got a stick reader, it'll read a tag, then what happens? Yeah, we're saying it's Bluetooth, it's, you know, it goes onto a system. Like, how is that data presented back on the actual system? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a file? What does it look like?
Yeah, so if you connect your stick reader to your computer by Bluetooth, it will put the tags across in a format, either a spreadsheet or as a text document. The best way to do it is as a spreadsheet, and then if you've got them in groups, you have each group in a column, and then you can name the top of that group for whatever it is. So if you've got your hogs in group A, your gimmers in group B, and your yows in group C, you can name them for that. Or if you're sharing it between a few of you, you can name group A Johnny sheep, group B Jane sheep, and group C Penny sheep. The program is very, very easy to install on your PC. You can download it from our website, and again, we are there and we will help you get your stick readers connected up and sorted out.
Okay.
I've got a question for Claire here. Come in for Claire. Claire, has using these devices, technology, decreased your amount of paperwork you've got to do at nights once you've got in from working with sheep and cattle?
Yes and no, which is a really silly answer. It definitely reduces the amount of paperwork you need to do. You can come back into the house, you put the stock recorder back in its docking station, and you upload everything, and that's you. You've done everything. Your records are up to date. You don't have to enter things into medicine books, etc., etc. It's just there and ready. What it has done in my case is, because I get very excited about performance records, is I will spend hours and hours and hours going through animals. So if you're excited about it, it won't reduce the amount of time you spend on it, but it definitely reduces the burden aspect of it.
Yeah, same here. You get utterly obsessed with it, and you just look back at everything. I've got one stock going off tomorrow, And I know I'll come back, I'll sell him on FarmWorks, and then I'll probably spend another hour just pottering about, having a look at things, and getting completely and utterly engrossed in it and forgetting I've actually got a job to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Right, I think we'll just have a wee halt about that just now, and then we'll move over to Stephen. So, hi, Stephen.
Hello, yep,
Yep.
I'm in
I'll
there
just
now.
pass it over to you now.
Yeah, good evening everyone as well, and thanks very much for joining the call. I'm actually going to start just by showing you a quick video just to give you a feel for Moocall and what we do. Just it was something that was released last year just on the BBC, so I'm just going to share my screen here and hopefully you can all hear it.
The great British countryside, green and rich in life. But behind these idyllic scenes is a nation of sleepless and stressed out cattle farmers.
When it comes to the birth of a calf, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong if the farmer isn't present.
Despite the best efforts of farmers, it's just impossible to watch over their herds 24/7.
There's nothing worse than losing the calf. It's just so frustrating. Just wondering, if I was there 5 minutes earlier, you could have saved that calf.
But the loss of calves due to birth complications might soon become a thing of the past.
This is Caulfield's farm in Northumberland, and I've come here to find out about a herd of cows that can text using their tails.
Nick Oliver has a herd of 160 cows, many of which have just calved. But thanks to some new technology, he's looking unusually well rested for a farmer in the midst of the calving season.
So, what on earth are your cows wearing?
Really, it's just the equivalent of a mobile phone for the cow world.
So, wearable technology, but for cows?
That's the idea, yeah.
So, how many cows would you lose in a normal year?
Calving, at a bad calving time, you could lose maybe 5–10% of your herd, perhaps, just by not being there at the right time.
It's a frustration shared the farming world over, and what sparked the development of this device. Emmett Savage is the founder of Moocall.
So, Emmett, what's the backstory behind this product? Why did you design it?
Well, we'd heard that there was a serious problem when it came to calving difficulties out there, and losing a calf and a cow to any farmer is a significant financial and emotional loss.
So Emmett and his team set about observing and analysing hundreds of cows in the hours before they delivered their calves, and were able to identify a behaviour that only happens at the onset of labour.
So if you look at the video here, you can see that the cow's tail is moving in a very specific way. You can see the movement that's happening. She's lifting her tail, it goes up, she's shaking it. This doesn't happen at any other time other than being in labour.
The contractions come closer together and stronger as calving approaches, and so too does the tail twitching.
And based on the increased contractions, we're then able to send a text message to the farmer to say in approximately 1 hour that calf is going to be born.
And how does it actually work?
So what we have, I can show you here, is we have a calving sensor which is measuring the tail movements on 3 different axes, and it's the intensity of those movements that ultimately trigger the text message.
So it's basically like a fitness tracker, but for cows?
Exactly.
In the cattle shed, Nick has brought in some of the cows that are still to calve, so he can fit them with a sensor to monitor them over the coming weeks.
So Nick, who have we got in here?
We'll have Daisy, we have Happy, we have Lottie Darline down there, and 2 of our other friends.
And which one of these lovely ladies do you think will be the next to pop?
I think we'll be looking at Daisy here, definitely.
And it's probably quite likely that they'll give birth in the middle of the night.
More often than not, they seem to, yeah, just to be awkward, yeah.
For Nick, it was an anxious few weeks of waiting on text alerts from his cows.
We just got an alert first thing this morning, and then the second one an hour later, we were coming to see her, she's actually calved already. Couldn't really pick the worst morning for it. She was out in the field, it was a really cold, wet morning. Calf got a real chill, a little bit cold and wet, so we're going to take it in.
But this newborn is not his only concern.
We've had a high activity report over the last hour from the calving sensor, probably just in the early stages of labour.
It's been a long night with 3 texts from Daisy.
Starting to think this cow's just taking a little bit longer than what she should do. The calf was coming backwards. She just needed some veterinary assistance.
And 40 minutes later, after an emergency C-section,
So there we have it, healthy cow, live calf.
and warming up in the next pen is Alex.
One of probably the worst morning of the year. Mother and calf doing well.
It's been a good year for Nick, with 70 calves safely delivered and relatively few sleepless nights.
Now, so I hope you could all hear that. Okay, there was no difficulties with sound or anything, but I'm just going to go to a quick presentation here as well, just so I can run through it here, which is no. So, yeah, look at my name's Stephen Fagan, and I'm head of our product and design at Moocall. I suppose just to get started, really, Moocall started really back in 2010 when our founder actually lost a cow and calf as a result of a difficult calving. Obviously, the farmer, it's hard if you have jobs off farm or anything like that, or even if you're doing other jobs throughout the day, you can't always be there to watch and monitor cows 24/7. So this was something that he wanted to take into consideration and try to develop some way or some means that this wouldn't occur again. So it was after 4 years of research and development and coming into 2015, we actually launched with the Moocall calving sensor. So as the video just described there, it's basically like a mobile phone for the back of the cow's tail that determines down to the nearest hour when the cow is going into labor. Then as obviously time went on, we've been attending trade shows over the years, and the number one question we were always being asked was, you know, have you got anything for heat detection or determining when cows are in heat for either use of AI, or if you're using a stock or breeding bull, knowing your calf and due date. So there was no affordable heat detection technology on the market. So this was something, again, we wanted to work on the back of nature to try to determine some way that cows you could identify basically when cows were actually coming into heat. So just on the basis of the calving sensor here, just to give you an indication, as I said,
Sorry,
it's like
Stephen,
a mobile.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we're not, or I'm not seeing the presentation.
Oh, sorry about that. I wasn't aware. 1 second, I might try to re-share it here.
Yeah, I think if you maybe stop sharing the video.
Okay,
We're
1 second.
just seeing the end of that.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry about that. Now I'll just try it here once more. Now, Kathleen, you might let me know if you can all see good. Perfect. Just put that back full screen. Now, there we go. So yeah, look, at just on the calving sensor there, just to give you an indication. As I said to you, it's basically like a mobile phone. And as you can see there, you're attaching the device opposite the vulva on the cow's tail, approximately 3 to 4 days before that cow is expected to calve. And so how it actually works is it's based on a spinal contraction in the cow's tail movement. So as that cow comes closer and closer into labor, we're actually picking up on a specific tail movement that triggers specifically when that cow is about to calve. So if she was swishing her tail a lot, and you might visually see the cow swishing her tail a lot, even in general terms, or if she's urinating or anything like that, it's not going to pick up on that unnecessary activity. It's solely indicated, and the algorithm is designed to pick up on calving activity. So when you purchase the device, basically all you're getting is the sensor. As you can see there is a charge cable and the whole works included in the box, and you have your complete user guide as well. So just in terms of the text messaging that you would expect to get. So we can hook up the device basically to 2 mobile phones, and you can change these phone numbers as frequently as you'd like. So for argument's sake, if I know you can't really go on holidays much at the moment, but if you're going away or anything like that, or even if you're going doing a certain job at a distance, you can change the phone numbers to another family member or a neighbor that might be nearby to check on the cows for you. We also, one of the biggest things obviously that our systems are known for is the Moocall Alarm function that we have through the Moocall app. So basically, once you have your device, you get an account that we provide you with, and the app is just downloaded to your smartphone, and you can get a text message and an alarm function that triggers. So say for at night time, you know, or if you didn't hear the text message coming through, or if you're working in a noisy environment, this is where you're actually going to hear the alarm function. And it's actually a cow that starts mooing at you for a few minutes. So if it's the first time you're using it and you hear it going off in the bed beside you, you might get a bit of a fright. But it's a great feature that we have, and it's something we've had since the very start. Also then as well, I suppose if you're working in an office environment or something off farm, email notifications is also something that customers have a desire for as well. So we have obviously the option for email alerts also. So just on the calving sensor there, obviously you can see where it's attached to the cow's tail. This device will actually last you on a full charge between 6 to 8 weeks. So typically, you know, you would get your notification when the battery runs down to 15%. Just to remind you, obviously, to charge it up. If the cows are obviously out in the fields or if they're in the shed, you'll just be notified to charge it up. And typically, it'll take around 3 to 4 hours to charge to full. Durability wise, the system, whether you're using it indoors or outdoors, the devices have gone through like absolute rigorous testing at this stage, but they're able to withstand a lot of obviously wear and tear and things like that over years of use. Now, as you can see here in the image, it looks shiny and new and unreal used, but you know, over time it does take a lot of scratches. It does take a lot of obvious hitting, whether the cow is indoors or she's banging it off a gate. That's all expected and built into the system. So from a benefit point of view, what does Moocall actually offer you as a farmer? I suppose the biggest thing is eliminating the amount of time you spend at calving season actually checking cows unnecessarily. So as I said, we're determining down to the nearest hour when your cow is going into labor. So that cuts out, you know, having to set alarms during the night, whether to get up and check cows on a regular basis, or even just the to-ing and fro-ing if your farm is, you know, a few miles away. That can really take its toll on both you know, from a tiredness level and also from up your fuel costs and things like that. So it's all to be taken into consideration. Also, one of the biggest mistakes that's made around calving time is incorrect timely intervention if assistance is obviously required. So, you know, if you have relatively easy calving cows, the real benefit for it is just to make sure that the cow gets up or the calf gets up and sucks straight away to ensure that that colostrum is intaked. But it's also for your intervening at the correct time. So if the cow goes into difficulty, you're actually there at the appropriate time to intervene and to assist with that labor. As I was mentioned, colostrum management is also really important. You know, you want to get milk into the calf almost in the first couple of hours of his life, or just to make sure that they're getting the best start to life, and also, you know, being able to get up and sucking is what's required. The biggest thing is obviously the peace of mind. You're cutting out obviously the amount of time that you're spending checking cows, and you can go about your day without having to worry that there is something watching your animals 24/7. And as look, we do use it as our slogan, but if it does save one calf for you, it pays for itself straight away. So just also, I wanted to break into just our other product that we have. So we have a heat detection system that's obviously for cows. Now, this is a collar that's worn by a teaser bull if you're using AI, or also a stock or breeding bull for recording your service history. So what is the importance of heat detection? So it's simply just observing changes in animal behavior, similar to what we're doing with the Moocall calving sensor, that are associated around your cow or heifers standing to be mounted by the bull. So we're just picking up on that actual activity and that change in cow-bull behavior. Detecting your animals in a standing heat is critical just to the success of any breeding program, to identify the performance of both your bull and the cows. And it's something that, you know, is often forgot, but you want to ensure that your bull is both fertility tested going into season. You know, we do see a lot of cases of customers of ours using the system, and then, you know, maybe the bull wasn't fertility tested going in season, but then they identify that he has some sort of an issue, whether he's subfertile or completely infertile. And obviously, if there's a failure to detect heats, errors in your heat detection are two of the primary causes for a poor reproductive performance and low reproductive efficiency. So just on Moocall heat, exactly what is it? As you can see in the picture there, it's a collar worn by your bull, and we're basing it on the bull's activity level and his movement around the cows, either in the field or in the shed. So when you purchase the device, each of your cows is actually wearing an electronic ear tag, so it's a specific Moocall branded tag, and that ear tag then you would scan in your Moocall app and assign it to whatever the cow name or the cow number is, and that's how it correlates back to you when the bull identifies a heat is present. So when you purchase the system, you get the one collar for your bull, and you also get 50 ear tags that are included in it, and that's our recommended ratio for obviously that type of a herd size, because ultimately, you don't want to be pushing your bull either. If you're trying to compact your calving season in some way, or whether you're breeding all year round, you have to look after obviously your bull's performance. He's the guy that's hoping to bring you all the calves coming into your spring or autumn time of the year. So you need to look after the bull as a #1 priority too. So how does the Moocall actually work? So it's based on 3 core elements. Now, you have your activity level. So this is the amount of movement and time that the bull actually spends around each of the cows. So his mounting periods when he mounts cows, his chin resting, his moving around the tag. And then you have the proximity. So the distance between that specific tag to the collar in correspondence with the other tags that are actually in the field. And then finally, you have the time element. So, for example, if a bull is actually standing beside a cow in a field, or if he's standing grazing or drinking at a trot, we don't pick up on that as the activity level. The other 2 factors have to remain present in order for us to determine that there is actually heat there. So again, we're just working on the back of nature, really. It's all purely on the bull's behavior, and that's where all the hardware and technology and cost is built into. So just a brief on what the collar actually would provide you with. I suppose you're getting whether you're using it for a stock bull or breeding bull purposes, you're actually getting your full bull service and history, and that's all basically sent to a smartphone, and you're able to see that information through your app. So if you have any problematic cows, you're able to identify all of that really early on in season, and be able to, either if you have to call a vet out to assess them, it'll just determine that for you. The next part is just getting your calving due dates. One thing you can't, there's been a huge shift in the last number of years, but one thing that a lot of advisors and vets would even get you to start doing is understanding your calving pattern a lot better. And determining when cows are actually in calf. You want to try, especially for, say, a suckler or beef herd, you want to try have that cow calving down at 365 days, to get the most efficiency out of her. And overall, then it's just a general herd management tool for breeding season. You have the full breakdown of when cows are expected to calve, all your expected due dates, and actually a countdown as to when they will actually give birth. And this helps you just with, I suppose, if you're bringing cows into the sheds for calving, it helps you with housing management more so. And if you're calving outdoors, it's to have, if you're obviously applying the Moocall calving sensor, it saves you time to have to bring in cows closer to maybe where you're living to just keep closer eye on them. Your timing of heat detection is also very important, right? So if you are using artificial insemination, or you are trying to improve your overall herd genetics, actually a funny thing is 60 to 75% of heats actually are determined between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. when activity levels are a lot lower throughout the herd. So as you'll notice, your timing, if you are using artificial insemination, your timing of AI is so critical, because the last thing you want to do is, put an investment into different straws or different types of bulls that you want to use throughout your herd, and then you're actually wasting them by going in at the wrong time. So that's obviously where you'd be using a vasectomized or teaser bull as opposed to a breeding stock bull to identify for AI purposes. And as I touched on there earlier, your bull performance is also very critical. You want to try see, like on average there, as you can see, there is a research done on it. There is 4% of bulls actually are infertile or go infertile, and then up to 20% actually are subfertile. So that means just firing blanks unknown to yourself. So what does the Moocall heat actually tell you as a farmer? So you're getting all real-time information as it happens. So you're getting the exact standing time of heat, and you're also getting when cows have been inseminated. All these alerts are obviously straight to your phone, so it's all seamless really. But you're able to identify all your normal heats, any silent heats, which could be quite difficult, particularly with the likes of heifers, and also cystic problems. So identifying if there is any problems with regards to the estrus cycle that you should know about. Any non-cycling cows, they're easily identified within 3 to 4 weeks of using the system, and it also helps you to identify within 4 to 5 weeks any stock bull fertility issues. And as I mentioned, identifying all your cows that are actually going in calf. So we do give up to 90 days from their last insemination to deem whether that cow is in calf. So it actually eliminates your need for scanning at the end of season. And obviously you have to identify your empty cows a lot quicker. This information then is automatically populated. If you are using artificial insemination, the only manual labor that you would have to do with the app is just insert when cows were obviously bulled from an AI technician. So that's really all I have for you. Is there? It's a basic just run through on Moocall, and if you do have any questions, feel free to ask away. And also just on both systems there, they are again as like the Shearwell products, it's under the grant scheme and is available both systems under the Sustainability Agricultural grant as well. So it's just
that's great. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Now we're sorry, bear with me. We're gonna hear. Where is he gone? There he is. We're going to hear from Donald MacDonald and his use of the Moocall calving detector. Oh, we're not hearing you, Donald. Oh, he's off for his technical support. I've got a question for Stephen though in the meantime. If the cows are texting you, do you need to be on a certain network like Vodafone or?
So the system, we're actually fortunate enough with how the technology actually stays connected. So we actually have network providers, various different network providers across the UK that we're actually operating through, and it's also across the world really. But the system will actually identify the best network that's available to it. So we're not fixed to the likes of, say, Vodafone, for example, or 3 or O2. It actually would vary depending on your region. So yeah, it'll just connect to whatever signal is strongest for us. So we don't have really any problems with regards to signal across the UK. I know some people will probably say different, but you know, depending on where you're based. But in general terms, like we would have a lot of coverage across Scotland.
Thanks for that. Donald, you had your tech support in.
I think we're on now, are we? Yeah. Well, thanks and good evening for that. And our experience with Moocall, I had it was about this time of year. I had a neighbour that had 12 heifers that was due for calving, and they were outside, and I had room, and I says, well, we'll take them in. So suggested to them, I says, get one of us Moocalls. That was about, it must have been 3 years ago, I think. So we bought one Moocall and we worked out which heifer we thought was going to calf first. And of course we had locking barriers for the heifers, so we just locked them in and put the Moocall on this heifer. And within a few days we got the text alert from the Moocall. Up we went, and here was a calf just landed on a straw. And you know, it worked extremely well. We just shifted from heifer to heifer, and all the heifers calved successfully. We had one, we went till we had to give her a slight pull, and that was all. We risked them, calved, but we were alerted for every one of them, and they were either just born, or if they were calving, they would calf easily, so they were spitting them out. But if there was a wee bit more shove, you were just landing there when a calf was being born. And we have experience of having a camera in the shed, obviously for lambing time, and on my opinion was that I felt that a Moocall was a better piece of equipment than a camera, because you weren't watching or taking a look. You just got alerted when it was happened. And the one Moocall we used successfully for a 12 heifers, and it worked very well. I was well impressed with it. So that was basically our experience of using a Moocall.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. And it was, yeah, especially with heifers, they can be a wee bit.
That's right. Yeah. And as you see, you only have to lose one calf for that, and especially with a heifer, it's well paid for,
Yeah, and you might have had to give a wee pull now and again.
That's right. But you're here, you're here,
there.
and you're no wasting time. You're when you only get a shout when they're just on that point of calving, which I thought was a great thing.
Yeah. No. Stephen, we've got thanks very much for that, Donald. Stephen, we've got a question for you. Does the electronic tag, the one for the heat detector, have to be a Moocall one, or can it be an animal that's already got an electronic tag?
So at the moment, it does have to be one of the Moocall tags. So it is one tag per cow. I suppose look at it, one of the challenges that we have out there at the moment, there's so many different systems using electronic devices to basically read identification, and obviously we're trying to keep it as universal as we can throughout all the countries that we actually operate in. We're in over 70 countries at the moment. So look at it, it isn't, you would need to use the Moocall branded tag, so that would incur another tag going into the cow's ear.
Okay. Question here. This person has a dairy herd and is wondering if Moocall have any plans on creating a heat detection aid, but where a bull is not required.
I suppose at the moment we are solely using the bull's behaviour. I mean, at the moment it is just a tag that the cow is wearing. So something that we are looking into at the present time is identifying and utilising our tags maybe a bit better, where it could be something maybe down the line. But at the present time, it is something that makes us different from the other heat detection systems on the market. And one of the challenges with not having, say, a bull present and just using a cow's for heat detection behaviour is your cost levels jump up significantly. Whereas the bulk of the technology, we were able to solely keep it to the bull himself, and that's where we're actually utilising his behaviour rather than a whole herd of cows.
Catherine, another question is coming there. Stephen, how much does a Moocall cost?
So the calving sensor is £239, and that comes with your first 12 months of network service included, and there's also a 12-month warranty included and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And the heat detection system has again, it's something similar. It works out at £1,095 for a herd of 50 cows. And you get the first 12 months, and there's a 12-month warranty included in that, and a money-back guarantee also. Each year there is a renewal because we are working off your mobile phone networks, and obviously we don't require any base stations, luckily enough. So if you are using it in quite remote areas, you don't have to install anything on the land or anything like that for it to operate. But we do have network costs each year. So for the calving sensor, it's £109 per year to keep the system up and running and connected to the phone networks. And obviously it's an optional payment. Once the customer sees the value in using the system, they renew the contract, and it pays for itself almost straight away. The heat detection system, the renewal on that is £255 per year. Now, if you do have multiple products, there is further discounts on the system thereafter as well.
Sorry, Stephen, does it work on both Apple and Android systems?
It does indeed, yeah. So it's not specific to any phone brand or anything like that. So if you do have an iOS or an iPhone, it'll work. You just download the app to your phone. And similarly, if you have an Android, like there's a lot of breeds of Androids out there, you can have any one of them. They'll all work seamlessly. One thing also just to bear in mind, if you don't have a smartphone, the system will actually still work with a standard, text messaging phone or even a buttoned phone. It doesn't have to be a smartphone. The only real benefit of the smartphone is for the alarm function if you're using the calving sensor, and obviously the herd management system if you're using the heat detection. But you'll still receive your notifications through the app or through the text.
Right, good. Sorry, we've run a wee bit over tonight. We've got one last question I think I'll pose to Stephen, but if you want any other questions, we can put to Jane, Stephen after the meeting, and we can also get some contact details out. But Stephen, this is a thrifty farmer here. If you put a cow off and she has a tag, can you reuse the tag?
So the tag, you can't really reuse the tag. Once we assign it to the animal, it's on the animal for the duration she's on your farm. To be honest, there isn't a lot of cost that we would put into the tags themselves. As opposed to, if you were to purchase new tags, a box of 25 tags actually costs £70. So, it's just working out at under £3 per tag. So to be honest with you, for the hassle of trying to cut out the tag, and by the time you get another male part to use in the tagger, with the time that you would spend trying to do that and reassign it over, it actually would probably cost you more to just go that route. So it's probably better just to insert a new tag for any new heifers or bought-in cows that you're bringing on farm.
That's great, thanks. Okay, so I'd just like to thank all our speakers tonight. I'd like to thank Jane and Claire for talking about the EID and the hand stick and then the handheld readers. I'd like to thank Stephen and Donald for talking about Moocall and calving detectors this evening. As I said, following up tomorrow, you'll get an email from myself asking for some feedback from tonight's meeting. If you do reply, you will be entered into a prize draw, and it's a £50 voucher. So please, if you get the email, please respond. You might win a prize. And contact details for Stephen and Moocall and Jane. We'll get that over. So just to finish tonight, just a couple of meetings we've got coming up. Our next one is, thinking about converting to organic. That's on Wednesday, the 3rd of March, and we've got a speaker from the Scottish Organic Producers Association, SOPA, coming along to tell us more about what's involved in converting to organic, and then some our producers who've converted to organic and about their experiences. And then on Wednesday, the 31st of March, under the WIA umbrella, we've got Motivate and Inspire. And we've got Lynn Castles from Lynn Brickcroft, and you might know of Lynn. They featured on previous episodes or series of This Farming Life. So without further ado, we'd just like to say thank you for logging on and bearing with us this evening. Sorry we've run over, but I hope you've gained something from the meeting. As I say, we'll be putting out an email tomorrow, so you can respond to me if you've got any questions.